All right, welcome back, San Francisco. You're listening to Make It Work with Jeremy Anticone, your source for a stress-free digital lifestyle. I'm Jeremy Anticone.
And I'm Tim Conway Jr. If you want to get closer to that stress-free digital lifestyle, then call us. 877-MAKE-IT-WORK. That's 877-625-3489.
Or shoot us an email. Ask Jeremy at makeitwork.com or send us a tweet at MakeItWork. Coming up this hour, Tim, we've got some email from the Make It Work inbox, plus we'll be getting to several listener voicemails, but first we've got something special.
Yes, we've got a very special guest in studio today.
That's right. Joining us now is Jay Freeman. He's also known in the online world as Saurik, and it is said that his efforts have directly contributed to the number of jailbroken iPhones out there today. So Jay, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right.
Hey, were you the first guy to ever jailbreak a phone?
No, I was definitely not.
No, you weren't.
So tell us a little bit about that. How did jailbreaking come about? And first, maybe it'd be a good idea for a lot of our listeners that may not know what jailbreaking is, for just to give you a brief description of what jailbreaking is.
So the general idea with jailbreaking is to allow users to take control of their device. So Apple is very controlling. There's an old saying about Ford motor cars that you could have any color you want as long as it's black, and that very much applies to Apple. So until very recently, you could have any wallpaper you want as long as it's black. So users jailbreak their phones to take back that control. They can put anything they want on their phone. They can make modifications to anything. It really makes it their device again. So you'd ask about jailbreaking history. So my understanding, and for all I know the story is apocryphal, is that George Hotz, at the time 17, went with a friend of his to the Apple Store in order to pick up his iPhone, the original iPhone 2G. And the way that it worked is you bought your phone at the store, took it home, plugged into iTunes, and at that point it would activate with AT&T. Only George didn't know that it only worked with AT&T. He used T-Mobile. So when he got home, he plugged it into his iTunes, it connected up, and it just would not turn on. And he was very sad and decided he was going to fix it. So luckily, George is very intelligent as far as how hardware works. He took the phone apart into a million pieces, connected it up to a bunch of expensive equipment that he had, and managed to reprogram it in order to support T-Mobile. So this is not technically jailbreaking. This is something that we call unlocking, and there is a difference. Unlocking allows you to take a phone and put it on an alternative carrier. So it allows you to take a phone that is on AT&T and use it on T-Mobile, whereas jailbreaking allows you to install software that normally the phone does not support.
Now, can anybody do this?
Currently, anybody can do this. It's very simple. You can go onto a web page, download a piece of software, install it, and make it happen.
So even Tim Conway Jr. could do this. Is what you're saying.
Thank you very much.
I think that's true.
Wow, that says a lot there, because Tim, I'm afraid when Tim comes into my office, my computers just start cringing.
I had a flip phone up until about 4 months ago.
Yeah, he went straight from a Sprint flip phone to an iPhone. So it's he's come a long way. We've been kind of dragging him along, kicking and screaming. So tell us a little bit about how you got involved with the jailbreaking community.
So after I had finally been convinced by a friend that I should get an iPhone, despite all of my complaints about all the stuff that it didn't do, the friend convinced me that it would actually be quite valuable to have the phone because I could reprogram it. I could fix it. It was jailbroken. This friend, by the way, Yehuda Katz, maybe he's out there. But that said, I managed to port Java to the phone. The reason why I was interested in doing this is that every other phone on the market supported Java, but the iPhone did not. And this was work. I was taking an existing JVM and bringing it to the iPhone, but the important part was allowing you to write actual applications, allowing you to build an experience just like the iPhone has, but to be able to do it using Java. So once I got all of that working, the problem is that it was too difficult to install. There was a tool at the time that allowed you to install. It was great. Before the App Store, you had something just like it. You could scroll through, find an application, and install it. But it didn't support the kind of complexity required for a developer. The ability to have something like Java, an entirely new way of programming for the device, set up and used. So I had to start working on taking control of more and more aspects of the experience, and that involved going through and taking control of the underlying Unix environment. I got involved in what's known as the tool chain, the software that you run on a desktop computer that allows you to build software for the mobile computer. And then I had to continue working on building a graphical system that would allow even an end user to be able to use all of this.
And so this is long before Apple allowed people to install applications or even create applications. So before Apple went down that path, you guys actually were taking this thing apart, figuring out how the iPhone worked, how the software worked, and creating applications and ways for people to actually use this software on their phones before Apple did.
That is correct. The iPhone was jailbroken, I believe, within a month of its being released, and this was back in 2007. I got involved a few months after that in November because the iPhone was released in July, I think. Then by January, I had succeeded in managing to change the experience of how people were using it. Cydia came out that March. The App Store wasn't even available until the next July.
Now, when you jailbreak a phone, can it ever go back to in jail?
Yes. It's very simple. At any point, you can take your phone, plug it into iTunes, press the button called Restore, and it'll put it right back to how Apple wants it.
We're going to test that theory because I've got a phone here that was jailbroken and will not boot now. So hopefully I'm doing something wrong. Hopefully he'll be able to show me a trick or two here. Some people say that jailbreaking is quote-unquote illegal. Others are saying that it's just against your software licensing agreement. You may be, violating your warranty. What is the actual true stance here on the legality of jailbreaking?
So I am not a lawyer. To the best of my non-lawyer understanding, this is not illegal. That said, I of course consult with numerous lawyers, and my understanding is that it is not illegal. There's nothing that it could be illegal about. I mean, you own this device. I mean, you might violate your warranty. So if you jailbreak your phone, you're not supposed to take it back to Apple to get fixed. But even that, there are some individual states, and I think there may even be federal legislation regarding what a warranty is allowed to state, and it may be that you're not allowed to say that you can't have a warranty if you've jailbroken your phone. So,
when speaking of jailbreaking a phone, and you finally do this and you're successful, does Apple hate people like you?
I wish I knew. Sometimes I sit around and I would just love to know whether Steve Jobs secretly despises me, thinks about ways of strangling me, whether he just really doesn't care.
Well, Steve, if you are listening, Steve, shoot us an email and let us know what you think of Jay, because I certainly have appreciated a lot of the things he's done, and I think that what the jailbreaking community has created really has opened up the doors for a lot of things on the iPhone, and certainly long before the App Store was available, I was jailbreaking my phones and installing applications to enhance the functionality. I probably would not have continued to use an iPhone if I wasn't able to install those applications early on to really get the hooks in me to keep me wanting to use the platform. So I think that it probably has gone a long way for a lot of people to keeping them on the platform.
And you had video before anybody, is that right?
Yeah, you wrote Cycorder, right? It was one of the first video recording applications.
That is correct. It was certainly the first video recording application that was actually usable.
Yeah, actually, Tim, I don't know if I told you this, but my daughter learned to ride her bicycle around the time that my first iPhone was came out, and actually I used Cycorder to film my daughter's first bicycle ride across the field at the school. So still have that video, and I didn't realize it until today that Jay wrote that software.
Now, have you transferred that video just in case that phone goes in the toilet like a lot of yours?
Tim, I've had 6 or 8 iPhones since then.
Right.
All of them in the toilet?
No, none of them in the toilet, thankfully. And I do still have that phone, so
that's pretty cool.
I still have my original one. So what other applications have you created, Jay?
So I've a really popular one is something called Winterboard. It allows users to change all of the graphics on the device, add wallpaper, change all of the icons. I've released an application called Syntax that allows users looking at their address book to see pictures next to everyone's name.
That's pretty cool.
So
Springboard or Winterboard came about, or the name for Winterboard came about because of Springboard, right?
Well, even more importantly, Winterboard came about because there was a predecessor to it called Summerboard that offered similar but much more limited functionality. The developer of that application disappeared. I actually never got a chance to meet him, but I really wish that I had.
And you know what? I got a great idea for you, and maybe this is already around. But when somebody sends you a stupid picture or a poem or a joke, is there any software that says, "Got it, thanks," and sends it back to them?
No, but that could be built.
Because it's a big waste of time to read all that stuff.
Single button, got it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, got it, thanks.